Bleach meets Naruto, the mad scientist who revolutionized shinobi warfare. Like, share and subscribe. Episode 86. The Crown of the Soul, Concealing the Changes of Fate. Let's go, Hirako. Orochimaru turned around and took Hirako away to prepare materials. Since they decided to supply the Tree of Life with all their strength, Cloud Shinobi and Sand Shinobi should be urged appropriately. In the laboratory, only Nara Shintaku was left. He sat under the Tree of Life, raised his hand to summon the Soul Crown, and put it on his head. Swish! The orange gem in the center of the crown flashed a deep luster. At the same time, ripples appeared in the void, undulating in circles, like water waves, spreading in all directions. The ripples spread to the far distance as if there was no end. Strangely, whether it was the Technology Development Department or Konoha village, all civilians and ninjas were unaware of it. It was as if this ripple did not exist. The one who travels through dimensions can sense the direction of fate. 1. Your existence will not be detected by prophecy, foreknowledge, clairvoyance, calculation, etc. When you are affected by the power of fate, you will be aware of it. That's all. Nara Shintaku wore a crown, closed his eyes, and waited patiently on the tree. At the same time, Mount Mayaboku Holy Land, in the palace inside, Great Toad Sage was hesitant. After thinking for a long time, he decided to use prophecy on his own initiative. This is not a simple matter. There is a price to pay for spying on fate. So Great Toad Sage has been passively predicting and rarely actively spying on fate. But now, an inexplicable palpitation makes it feel uneasy. I have to take a look to feel at ease, the Great Toad Sage said, closing his eyes, exuding a strange hazy breath, as if he had left this time and space, and his spirit went to the distant future. Buzz. An invisible void ripple swept across its 340 body. But the Great Toad Sage was unaware. It opened its eyes in the dream and tried its best to look into the future. A familiar scene appeared. The blue-eyed boy played with the nine-tailed beasts. Is fate unchanged? The Great Toad Sage was relieved and woke up from the prophetic dream. In the palace, it opened its eyes, looking tired, and its body's breath was mostly weak. It seemed to have aged a lot in an instant. In the Pure Land, the Sage of Six Paths looked at the entire ninja world. The Rinnegan's pupil power, like the vast skylight, swept all corners of the world, including the underground space of Iwagakure, including the conspiring Uchiha Madara, the sinister Black Zetsu. But the weird thing is, he intentionally or unintentionally ignored the Technical Development Department in Konoha village, and left carelessly before his eyes fell. No problem? Sage of Six Paths frowned, thought about it, and put the matter aside for the time being. He had no intention of intervening in the ninja world. The future predicted by the Great Toad Sage was in line with his heart. Since the future that was in line with his heart was destined to come, there was no need to do anything extra, just wait patiently. Land of Earth. In a hidden underground space, the thing that stimulated the Kidō statue disappeared? Uchiha Madara showed a puzzled expression and murmured, "It's really strange. As the body of the sacred tree, what can stimulate the Kidō statue? Forget it, when I cast Infinite Tsukuyami, all the secrets will be exposed." Uchiha Madara looked defiant and confident. Only Black Zetsu was thinking secretly beside him, feeling confused. The only one who can make the Kidō statue react is a very high-level being. Unfortunately, the Kidō statue, which has lost its power, has been filled with desire and anger, and cannot communicate. I hope the little episode just now will not affect my plan, Black Zetsu thought secretly. Of course, it is not nervous. To its mother, this planet is just a breeding farm and arsenal that can be used at will, without any threat. If it were not for the two traitors, Yui and Himura, this planet would have been harvested clean and turned into the power of its mother. Time passed quickly for more than a month. A large amount of materials were delivered, and at the same time Orochimaru made a simple curse seal to cultivate a small mountain of flesh and blood rich in natural energy. This flesh and blood proliferated disorderly, just like cancer cells. Any creature that touched it would be eroded and assimilated, turning into a pool of rotten meat. But for the Tree of Life, this is the best nutrient. The two eyes turned into fruits, which matured quickly, and the blood-red pupil light on them turned into a deep and mysterious purple. At the same time, the original chain-like pupil pattern turned into circles. The circles were shown with a faint white light, like water waves. This is exactly what the Rinnegan looks like. Finally, I've waited for the day when the fruit matures. Orochimaru walked under the tree with emotion and excitement on his face. The power of the Sage of Six Paths, the legendary All Things. Say, let me see what kind of power it is. Orochimaru summoned the Soul Scalpel. Shwa! With a light wave, the roots were cut off. 2 Rinnegan fell. Nara Shintaku and Orochimaru took one of the eyes respectively. It's strange. After falling into the hands of the 2 people, the 2 apple-sized Rinnegans shrank spontaneously and turned back to the normal shape of eyeballs. At the same time, the eyeball has a sophisticated structure, with nerves and blood vessels all over the eye socket. It can be replaced in someone's eye socket at any time. The eyes in the Hokage world are really hot swappable. Nara Shintaku couldn't help but sigh and put away the Rinnegan. Orochimaru did the same. For the 2 of them, there was no need to deliberately replace their eyes with Rinnegan. That would be too primitive and too rough. It's not beautiful at all. They are researchers. They only need to get a Rinnegan to study the secrets and turn it into the power they control. After losing 2 Rinnegan, the Tree of Life trembled and its breath became weak. But it's not a big problem. Orochimaru and Nara Shintaku took a look and ignored it. As long as enough materials and natural energy are provided, the Tree of Life can recover and continue to produce various chakra fruits. Let's go. Orochimaru came quickly and left quickly. After getting the Rinnegan, he hurried away to study it. Yes. Nara Shintaku nodded and began to study the Rinnegan in his hand. Each pair of Rinnegan has its own unique eye technique. For example, Heaven's Hand Power, Will Grave Bienyu, High Emperor Forest Honor, Coercion, Time Rewind, Thousand Paper Crane Instant Body, etc. But in addition to this, there are also common basic eye techniques. Heavenly Way, Animal Way, Shura Way, Human Way, Hell Way, Hungry Kidō, Outer Way. These 7 basic eye techniques are possessed by all Rinnegan. I already have the exclusive ability of Rinnegan, that is Wanshan. Nara Shintaku looked at the Rinnegan in his hand and muttered to himself, the so-called exclusive eye technique is actually the power that the Otsutsuki sage has sublimated after practicing to a certain level, melting all the tangible and intangible things such as skills, will, emotions, and desires. It is a symbol of this person's path. But this is not something unique to the Otsutsuki clan. It is the power that all practitioners naturally awaken after practicing to a deep level. For example, Mount Mayaboku Gamaru's prophecy, Katsuyu's split regeneration of the wetbone forest, and the thought waves and petrification of the cave white snake. These powers are essentially the same as the exclusive eye techniques of Rinnegan. Nara Shintaku nodded slightly and sorted out his thoughts. He has awakened his own exclusive power Wanshan. The so-called Wanshang is different from the Rinnegan's Senro Wanshan. Nara Shintaku's omniscience is to constantly imitate, learn, devour, plunder, draw nutrients from everything and grow. If I must describe it, it is closer to Makoto's adaptation. So, the value of this Rinnegan to me is to enhance the power of omniscience. Nara Shintaku closed his palms and crushed the eyes. Snap! The ruptured Rinnegan released all its pupil power in one breath. Nara Shintaku's eyes were shining with gold and silver, and he stared at the pupil power closely, observing and learning the mysterious changes in it. Outer Path. Rinne Tensei Technique. Heavenly Path. Shinra Tensei. Universal Pull. Planetary Devastation. Ashura Path. Physical Strengthening. Physical Transformation. Hell Path. Summoning Yama. Yama Judgment. Yama Reincarnation. Human Path. Heart Layer Diving. Soul Absorbing Technique. Hungry Kidō. Chakra Devouring. Sealing Absorption. The Rinnegan pupil power dissipated, and Nara Shintaku's eyes flashed. He has analyzed and learned all the moves of 6 paths and outer paths. And these moves will show even more terrifying power in his hands. Unfortunately, this pair of Rinnegan has not yet created its own pupil technique. Nara Shintaku felt a little regretful. He flicked his finger, and the Rinnegan residue in front of him turned into powder. Completely disappeared from the world. Gao Huangchan Lin Zun, time goes back. I am looking forward to the exclusive eye technique of Rinnegan. Nara Shintaku smiled slightly. He was looking forward to the future, the Otsutsuki clan crossing the starry sky, giving him people to buy. But now, let's accept the new system rewards. Nara Shintaku looked forward. In front of the empty eyes, a system panel that only he could see emerged. Current template, Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Development progress, 60%. Develop technology, blood armor technique, dynamic blood armor and static blood armor, flying sickle kick technique, exclusive sage mode, yin yang escape Kidō, soul activation ascension technique, soul weapon forging technique, blood limit development technique, life shell creation technique, physical potion, blood limit awakening potion. And the cultivation plan of the power of all things. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 60% of the interim rewards. Ranzhuang Tiangue research data. Ranzhuang Tiangue? Nara Shintaku frowned slightly. He knew this technique. This is a unique skill of the Quincy, stringing spirit particles into silk threads, tying and connecting the body, just like manipulating a puppet, making the weak or aging body move again. Before completely turning into dust, you can keep fighting. It is called the highest fighting technique. The heavenly demon disintegration technique? Nara Shintaku shook his head lightly. In his opinion, this is a technique that treats the body as a consumable and pursues mutual destruction. It doesn't make much sense. If the body is used as a consumable, he has too many ways to squeeze out the ultimate power. What is the random heavenly puppet? Forget it, since it's a reward, let's just take a look. Nara Shintaku received the knowledge indifferently. Suddenly, a lot of unfamiliar information emerged. Nara Shintaku quickly sorted and digested it. Huh? Soon, he was stunned and his expression became surprised. Nara Shintaku had a strange expression and was a little bit unconvinced of the information in his mind. The system rewards not only the Ranzhuang Tianque. Also, there is Nelly's research and development of this technology. Interesting. Build a new body control system by using the random Tiangue? What a radical idea, because the natural control systems such as neural network, muscle contraction, and ligament pulling are too inefficient, far inferior to using spirit particles to control the team directly. So, just abandon it. Abandon the so-called instinct, and put everything in the body under the control of consciousness, that is, 100% absolute control. Nara Shintaku browsed Kurotsuchi Mayuri's research in amazement. According to Kurotsuchi Mayuri's idea, after completing the replacement of the operating system, the so-called explosion, potential explosion, emotional burst and other abilities will be lost. But in return, it is 100% absolute force. Because the body is absolutely controlled, every blow is 100% of the full force. No redundancy, no waste. Naturally, there will be no so-called explosion. After reading these studies, I got inspiration. Nara Shintaku touched his chin, thinking. If it was just a replacement of an operating system, he would have done it. Sage transformation makes his body structure, blood composition, tissue structure, etc. very different from ordinary people. Although he still retains his human form, the muscles under the skin are no longer muscles. Instead, they are a kind of steel bars that look like muscles. His skin is no longer skin, but a unique cortex that looks like human skin, which can resist most physical damage and ninjutsu damage. Even if Amaterasu washes his face directly, it will only turn red, but not burn. I have a bolder idea. Nara Shintaku slightly raised the corner of his mouth. Since you are changing the operating system, why not be more direct and change the body as well? How can you forget to upgrade the hardware when you are only concerned with upgrading the software? A few days later. Technology Development Department, in the laboratory. Orochimaru was invited to come and looked at the scroll in his hand in surprise. New technique? He was studying the power of Rinnegan and had already figured out something. I thought Nara Shintaku was the same. The two of them should not meet in the short term. Unexpectedly, today Nara Shintaku suddenly asked him to meet and gave him a scroll of a new technique. Have you mastered the power of 4.0 Rinnegan? Orochimaru asked curiously. Of course. Nara Shintaku smiled and nodded, that's not difficult for me. Hiss. Orochimaru took a breath. As expected of an old monster. He has just started. Orochimaru sighed in his heart and lowered his head to open the scroll. Rinnegan is not urgent, I have already found the way. Shintaku's new technique makes me more curious. Every time it is taken out, it is an amazing technique. Orochimaru looked at it curiously. His expression immediately froze after seeing it. Although he had expected it, he was still shocked when he saw the content of the scroll. Ranzhuang Tian. Replace the body operating system, and then replace the new body according to the new operating system. Until the operating system and the body merge. Just like energy creatures, the system structure is the body, and the body is the system structure. The two can be transformed at will, immortal. Orochimaru's heart was in turmoil. The starting point of this Ranjuan Tian puppet technique is the puppet master of Sand Shinobi. But in the second half, the intention suddenly rose. The two concepts of manipulation and body are completely integrated. Is this the end of the sage transformation road? Orochimaru looked up, showing an excited face, and couldn't help asking. The final result of the practice of sage transformation is the unity of body and soul. That is also the realm where the two concepts of operation and body are integrated. The unity of body and soul, the unity of yin and yang. Achieve the final sublimation. But Orochimaru has never found relevant information about that state. Even the immortals of the three Holy Lands have not come into contact with that realm. It seems to exist only in imagination. Yes, this is the end of sage transformation. Nara Shintaku nodded slowly with a solemn expression. Episode 87. Energy is me, I am energy, immortal God. When the soul and the body are united and life is sublimated, the boundaries of the form will be completely broken, and the state of energy is me, I am energy will be reached. This is the ultimate pursuit of the immortal path. Yes, the gods of the old times. Nara's words made Orochimaru fall into complete excitement. His face flushed and his breathing was rapid. A pair of golden vertical pupils lit up with dazzling divine light, and all around became sharp. God. You mean, the local gods before the arrival of the sacred tree? They can actually break through the boundaries of the form and reach the state of energy as me, I am energy. Orochimaru was excited, and his face was full of disbelief. Energy is me, I am energy, what does it mean? It means transcending time. The sun and the moon rotate, and the world changes, it doesn't matter at all. All the changes in the world cannot affect you. Unless someone of a higher level gradually erodes your will integrated into the energy, you are immortal. Wait. Orochimaru suddenly thought of a question and asked, if the native gods of the old times really reached this terrifying realm, why did they lose? Why did the sacred tree take everything? If it weren't for the Sage of Six Paths and Himura, this planet would have been ruled by the goddess of the rabbit long ago, right? This is a very big doubt. Why did the immortal native gods disappear? Of course it's because the sacred tree is stronger. Nara Shintaku chuckled, have you forgotten? The goddess of the moon is still sealed on the moon. Orochimaru took a breath. The sacred tree is stronger? Doesn't it mean that the sacred tree and the Otsutsuki clan are superior to the immortal gods? The goddess of the rabbit is so strong, why was she sealed by her own son? Orochimaru showed a puzzled look, if it were me, I would definitely have a countermeasure. If it was Orochimaru himself, he would definitely leave a lot of backdoors. Even if there were no backdoors. Relying on his own knowledge and strength, he is enough to crush all beings below his level. For example, now. It's easy for him to suppress the tailed beast. Realm does not necessarily represent combat power. Nara Shintaku said with a smile, what's more, the goddess of the rabbit was only sealed, not dead. I see. Orochimaru nodded suddenly. If he hadn't come up step by step, he might not have enough fighting power. After all, not everyone is like him and Nara Shintaku, who have been promoted from scratch little by little. Of course, this old monster should have practiced for the second time to reach the current level. Orochimaru glanced at Nara Shintaku and thought secretly. Okay, let's get back to the topic. Nara Shintaku said, what do you think of this random heaven puppet technique? It seems incomplete? Yes, I just have a preliminary idea. Nara Shintaku paused and smiled meaningfully, so, I need you to help improve it together. Oh? Orochimaru couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. He seemed to have guessed something. Energy is me, I am energy, aren't there very suitable samples in the current ninja world? Nara Shintaku said leisurely. Orochimaru's eyes narrowed and he smiled and nodded, you said so. It's true. Yes, it's the tailed beasts. Nara Shintaku smiled. I understand what you mean. Orochimaru also smiled. Catch the tailed beasts. This is what Nara Shintaku meant. However, the tailed beasts are the most important things in the hidden villages. It is impossible to borrow them. They can only be seized by force. And seizing them by force will inevitably cause fierce resistance from the villages. But so what? Now Konoha can sweep across the entire ninja world, and it is as easy as taking something out of a bag to bring all the territories under its rule. Nara Shintaku stretched out his hand, gently clenched his fist, and exuded a sense of pride. It seemed that the whole world was in his hands. The territory of the entire ninja world? Orochimaru licked his lips and became excited. This is a feat that even the first Hokage has failed to accomplish. Unexpectedly, under the influence of Nara Shintaku, Kuni has surpassed the first Hokage without realizing it. I'm really going to witness history. Orochimaru thought excitedly. The two then discussed the details. They left the technical department together and went to different places. Konoha village. In a tavern. A white-haired man was drunk, his eyes were confused, his expression was depressed, and his faith was shattered. Teacher Jiraiya, stop drinking. Namake's Minato was next to the man, persuading him helplessly, you have been drinking for 3 days. Even for a ninja, you have reached your limit. Jiraiya did not respond and continued to drink. He was driven back from the front line. Back in the village, he was excluded openly and secretly, and held an idle position, doing nothing all day. And his disciple Minato was also dismissed and thrown into the barrier class, punching in and out every day to do some trivial and meaningless things. Both the master and the apprentice were put on ice. Teacher Jiraiya, you really can't drink anymore. Minato's face was full of worry. He knew that Teacher Jiraiya was depressed. Minato himself was also depressed. But there is no point in being depressed. People always have to keep moving forward and keep looking forward. Ton. Jiraiya still ignored it and continued to drink. Just after finishing the bottle in his hand, Jiraiya suddenly stopped, his eyes suddenly cleared up, and he looked back outside the tavern. Teacher? Minato was stunned for a moment and looked in the direction of his sight. A figure walked in from outside. It was a boy of 15 or 16 years old. Pineapple hair, long hair, handsome and masculine face. It was Nara Shintaku. What are you doing here? Jiraiya asked with a bad expression. Jiraiya was not in a good mood for the master and apprentice who had frozen him. Shintaku-kun, what do you want to talk to us about? Minato sighed and asked politely. Nara Shintaku walked in front of the two people, sat down and poured a cup of tea slowly. The strange thing was, there were obviously many guests around, but no one noticed the arrival of Nara Shintaku. Everyone seemed to be blind. Nara Shintaku was completely invisible. Minato and Jiraiya couldn't help but raise their eyebrows at the same time. Just based on this trick of hiding their whereabouts, they couldn't understand, let alone understand. The current Nara Shintaku made them feel unfathomable. Teacher Orochimaru and I plan to study the tailed beasts. Nara Shintaku took a sip of tea and said slowly. This plain sentence, when it fell into Jiraiya's ears, was like a muffled thunder. Boom! Jiraiya opened his eyes wide instantly, stared at Nara Shintaku, and said in a deep voice, what do you mean? It means literally. We have established a new research project, and the research target is the tail. Nara Shintaku said lightly. Bang! Before he finished speaking, Jiraiya slammed the table. What a joke! He glared at Nara Shintaku and said angrily, the tailed beasts are strategic weapons distributed by Shodai to the major hidden villages to maintain peace. Collect the tailed beasts again, what do you want to do? Are you going to destroy the one country one village system established by Shodai and let the ninja world return to the chaotic Sengoku era? Jiraiya almost shouted. But he shouted so excitedly, but the people around him did not respond at all. It seemed that all the guests in the tavern were deaf. Mr. Shintaku, you and Lord Orochimaru, do you know the consequences of collecting tailed beasts? Minato first glanced around in horror, then looked at Nara and spoke. Of course. Nara's expression was calm and his tone was gentle, that's why I came to see you. Where's Orochimaru? Jiraiya growled. Teacher Orochimaru, considering our friendship, was reluctant, so I stepped in. Nara explained with a smile. Jiraiya laughed angrily. What is this? He knew he didn't agree, but he still insisted on doing it. In the end, he sent a child to perfunctorily deal with him? What kind of friendship is this? Mitaku-kun, why are you obsessed with the tailed beasts? Minato asked calmly and seriously. It's just that we've researched so far, there's no special reason. Nara explained, my teacher and I aim to explore life and transform the world. Go to the sea of the stars. Think about our vast sky, where countless gorgeous stars shine every night. Aren't you curious about that world? Minato's expression moved slightly. He was a little surprised. He didn't expect Nara and Orochimaru to have such a grand ideal. So you ignore the lives on Earth and wantonly provoke wars? Jiraiya sneered. The one country, one village system cannot end the war, it just prolongs the war, but the consequence of the extension is that every war will be particularly tragic. Nara explained seriously, the First and Second Ninja World Wars have already proved this point. The one country, one village system is not feasible. Jiraiya's expression froze slightly. This is the truth. It is also the question that he has been struggling with in his heart. Then will your approach bring peace? Jiraiya asked back. No. Nara shook his head without hesitation. This denial was beyond Jiraiya and Minato's expectations. They also thought that Nara would flaunt his own approach, step on the one country one village system, and forcibly promote the correctness of his own ideas. Teacher Orochimaru and I both believe that war cannot be eliminated. As long as humans exist, there will be war. Nara said seriously, this is not a problem of hatred, but a problem of resources. Just like Tsuchikage, they will invade Konoha no matter what, because they are poor in resources. And Konoha will resist no matter what, because they don't want to give up the fertile land in their hands. This is a spiral of contradictions, there is no solution. Nara's words made Jiraiya and Minato fall into deep thought. They are committed to peace in the ninja world and have always been thinking about how to resolve wars. But in the past, they were limited by their identity perspective and could not draw conclusions. They could not find a solution. At this time, listening to Nara's words, it was like a loud bell, a wake-up call, and the bloody reality suddenly woke them up from their fantasy. So, war cannot be eliminated? Jiraiya and Minato looked dazed. There was a sense of disillusionment with a collapse of faith and a bleak future. Of course, war or not, my teacher and I are not interested. Nara said lightly, our main purpose is to collect tailed beasts, and our secondary purpose is to unify the ninja world and transform the potential of war into a driving force for external expansion. This may be a better path. You can remain silent, but don't stop it, otherwise. Nara didn't say anything. Jiraiya and Minato both felt a chill in their hearts. Although Nara's tone was flat and there was no threatening word in his words, the two still felt chilled. As if he didn't agree, he would be in trouble the next moment. That's all for today. Nara looked at the two and disappeared. Jiraiya and Minato were stunned. They completely understood how Nara left. They couldn't even be sure if Nara had really been here just now. Teacher Jiraiya. Minato smiled helplessly and asked, can't we do anything? Jiraiya's expression was equally bitter, and he said, they came to say hello in person. If we don't know what's good for us, we might become material next time. Minato's eyes twitched. He didn't want to be turned into material for research. Hokage building. In the conference room. A routine Jonin meeting was being held. Everyone, if there's nothing else, will be gone. The third Hokage, as usual, said some clichés and was about to end it. But today, none of the Jonin present moved. The third Hokage showed a surprised expression and asked, is there anything else? Teacher. Orochimaru spoke at this time. His unique hoarse voice echoed in the conference room. Others looked at Orochimaru and bowed their heads slightly to show respect. The third Hokage's heart skipped a beat and realized something. I'm sorry to say this to you, but... Orochimaru looked at him with a complicated expression and sighed, I'm going to go down minus 840 steps. What do you mean? The third Hokage was silent for a while and asked. I want to collect tailed beasts and study them. Orochimaru replied. Wow. A storm suddenly rose in the heart of the third Hokage. He looked at Orochimaru in disbelief and asked, Do you understand what will happen if you do this? Well, I know it very well. Orochimaru nodded. But do you still have to do it? The third Hokage frowned and asked. Yes, my path is already in front of me, and there is no way to stop. Yin Shiliang sighed. The third Hokage's expression changed rapidly. The thought of struggling flashed through his mind, but he saw that every Jonin present looked at him with a cold expression. The third Hokage understood that the situation was over. Okay, I will announce my abdication this afternoon. The third Hokage was silent for a long time, and said dejectedly. He gave up struggling. DY. The Jonin around him all relaxed. If it comes to the point of forcing the emperor to abdicate by force, the scene will be ugly. It would be best if the third Hokage could take the initiative to abdicate. We can still get along well in the future. Thank you, teacher. Orochimaru stood up and bowed sincerely to the third Hokage. The third Hokage waved his hand and stood up to leave the meeting room. His back suddenly became much more hunched. The power reshuffle within Konoha happened quickly and calmly. There was no bloodshed. Orochimaru's appointment was well received by the public. As soon as he took office, he directly issued a large number of war missions, using physical enhancement potions, blood limit awakening potions, and attribute talent enhancement fruits as rewards. He encouraged the ninjas below to attack Cloud Shinobi, Rock Shinobi, Sand Shinobi, Rain Shinobi, Kazekage, Tsuchikage, and the Land of Iron at the same time. This was a general attack by Konoha on the entire ninja world. With so many enhancements, the overall strength of the Konoha Shinobi was incredibly strong. The attack naturally broke into the base camps of the major hidden villages like a whirlwind. Asshole! Damn Konoha Shinobi! You will die a miserable death. I will never surrender even if I die. Revenge! Revenge! Protect our homeland, everyone, follow me. Scenes of tragedy occurred in various hidden villages. The ninja tools developed by Nara Shintaku with external plugins, plus potions and fruits, directly created a situation of dimensionality reduction. In a month, the major hidden villages fell completely, without any decent resistance. Only Kidō, which was isolated overseas, was still struggling to hold on because of the sea current. But when Konoha is free, the war will naturally spread to Kidō. Water Country. Kidō, high-level meeting. Everyone, tell me, do you want to surrender? Third Mizukage looked around at the senior executives and asked with a sigh. No one answered. The meeting room was silent. Episode 88. Mist Shinobi sends Tsurumi May out, safely separating the tailed beasts. The meeting room was completely silent. All the senior executives either bowed their heads or looked away. In the current situation, surrender is inevitable. But no one is willing to take the responsibility of surrender, and everyone cares about their reputation. Well, surrender. In the end, it was the most experienced master who took the responsibility with a sigh. Others breathed a sigh of relief. If the stalemate continues, they will not be able to hold on. Konoha's people have frequently appeared on the beach, and it is estimated that they will attack them in half a month. Cloud Shinobi, Rock Shinobi, and Sand Shinobi have all been defeated. They, Kidō, are naturally no match. It is better to surrender as soon as possible. Then hand over what they want. The third Mizukage said with a dejected expression, use the pure spirit bottle to seal the three tails and hand them over to Konoha, and the information, sealing techniques, and 7 ninja swords we obtained from the land of whirlpools must also be taken out. The others had a look of pain on their faces, but no one objected. When you are under someone's roof, you have to bow your head. When they conquered the whirlpool country, they ate everything, and now they have to spit it out twice as much. Also, I heard that this Nara really likes beautiful women? The master paused and said, send Tsurumi May over as well. As soon as these words came out, the senior officials present all looked at him sideways. Third Mizukage was even more shocked and said quickly, Master Yuancher, Tsurumi May is half of your disciple. I have so many disciples. Yuancher didn't care and said, the village spent so many resources to train her. Now, it's her turn to repay the village. Third Mizukage couldn't help but be silent. In the past, a ninja with 2 bloodline limits was definitely a treasure of the village. But now, the village is at the brink of destruction. Not to mention a ninja with a bloodline limit, even if it is the daughter of Third Mizukage, if she meets the conditions, she must be sent away. You are still aware. Third Mizukage showed emotion. Other senior officials nodded. As expected of the old predecessor who has been managing the affairs of the village since the time of first Mizukage. If Tsurumi May can give birth to a talented child, then we Kidō, there is still a future to talk about, otherwise. Yuancher shook his head and didn't say anything. Everyone felt their hearts sink when they heard this. After the meeting, Tsurumi May was notified to perform a sacrificial mission. She blushed on the spot and was extremely angry. You want me to be Nara Shintaku's woman? What a joke! I have awakened the 2 bloodlines of Lava Style and Boil Style, and I have the potential to become a top ninja. With a bright future, who would be willing to entertain people with S*X? 250. But, trapped Yi Shirtian. Kidō has no time to grow up for Tsurumi May, now is a matter of life and death. Yuancher, Third Mizukage and others took turns to persuade, coerce and lure. Tsurumi May finally had to agree. She had no choice. Forget it, just think of it as being bitten by a dog. Tsurumi May gnashed her teeth and reluctantly accepted the training and guidance of some female ninjas in the village's intelligence department. She mastered a lot of knowledge and skills to serve people. Don't give me a chance. Otherwise, I will definitely dig up your ancestors' graves for 18 generations. And Nara Shintaku, you'd better not let me give birth to your child, otherwise, you will wait for your son to kill your father. Terumi left the village with resentment. Following a group of protection, surveillance, teams, she was sent to the Leaf Village as a gift along with the Pure Spirit bottle. Konoha. The Nara clan's land. At this time, the Nara clan's land has been expanded several times. Nara Shintaku's home has been rebuilt several times and has now become a small manor. In the manor, the fortress stands. The interior decoration is magnificent, golden and dazzling, full of luxurious temperament. Terumi is on pins and needles. Because she just saw 3 young and beautiful girls from Cloud Shinobi follow Nara Shintaku upstairs. The Uchiha girl in front of her was looking at her with an undisguised scrutiny. Damn, didn't they say that Nara Shintaku was only 9 years old? That silhouette just now must be at least 16 years old. And those 3 Cloud Shinobi girls are so well behaved. As soon as Nara Shintaku waved, they followed him consciously. Terumi was a little flustered. The training in the village didn't teach to this extent. Can Cloud Shinobi make people serve willingly? She can't do it. Well, your talent, appearance, figure, are qualified. Uchiha Makoto sat on the sofa, his eyes turned slyly, looking at Terumi. Terumi was speechless. She couldn't understand why there was a housekeeper-like girl in Nara's house, responsible for examining her conditions. What a trouble! Why is this Uchiha woman so picky? Master Mitaku is extremely noble. If you want to serve him, ordinary people are not qualified. Makoto stood up seriously, pulled Terumi and walked into the bathroom. Let me see what you can do, whether you are qualified to serve Master Mitaku. Terumi followed her into the bathroom in a daze. After a long time, Nara Mitaku went downstairs, looked at Terumi who was soft like a puddle of mud on the sofa, and looked at Makoto on the side speechlessly. Don't look at me like that, I'm helping you check if she is qualified. Makoto listened to her little chest and said confidently. Do you think I believe it? Just believe it. I accepted you to help me manage my harem, not to let you enjoy my harem. Nara's forehead was about to jump. I'm really just checking, the first meal is still for you. Makoto was a little anxious, reaching out to pull Terumi's clothes. Alright. Nara stopped her speechlessly. When upstairs, his perception had already captured what happened between Makoto and Terumi in the bathroom. It was indeed just a slight inspection, just a touch. But if you feel the edge today, will you dare to really do it tomorrow? You are a small housekeeper, and you treat the mistress as your own? Nara had to knock this restless guy. What a mess you think in your mind all day long. Nara flicked her forehead unhappily. It hurts. Makoto's face suddenly turned bitter, covering her forehead, and her smooth skin was already red and swollen. You still know it hurts. Nara snorted coldly, I told you to deal with Tsunade, why haven't you done anything yet? Did you forget your mission? 3 Cloud Shinobi came, but you bowed your head first. Have you been slacking off these days? Nara said, flicking her forehead again in annoyance. Makoto pouted her mouth aggrievedly and said, Sister Tsunade, as long as you are tough, it will be easy to deal with it. But she is hiding from me now. So, you have to be tougher. Snap. Flicked her forehead again. Don't talk back. Tyrant. Makoto covered her forehead and looked at Nara stubbornly. Next to her, Terumi trembled when she heard it. That Tsunade princess is actually Nara's woman. The next day, Nara went out refreshed and went to the technical development department. Makoto's eyes were dull and she sat on the sofa motionless. Next to her, Terumi also had a dull expression, her whole body was limp, and she couldn't move a finger. The mission to approach Nara was successfully completed. But it was too smooth. So much so that Terumi had mixed feelings, and she wasn't mentally prepared. Technology Development Department. In the cell of the laboratory, Nara looked at the Jinchuriki with angry expressions, and casually dropped the one-tailed Jinchuriki among them Fenfuku monk. The rest of the Jinchuriki shuddered. I'll leave first, everyone take care. Monk Fenfuku put his hands together, bowed, and walked out of the cell with a resolute face. He was going to meet his own death. Senior Fenfu. Damn Konoha. Damn it, are they finally going to attack us? They keep saying they want peace, but now they are studying tailed beasts. Konoha is really hypocritical. The faces of the people showed anger. They looked at Nara Shintaku outside the cell with hateful eyes. Nara Shintaku didn't care. He took Funfu out of the cell and went to the laboratory. In the laboratory, a group of students prepared instruments and sealing arrays, integrating technology with ninjutsu, to test the various data of Monk Funfu. Monk Funfu sat calmly at the testing position, with a peaceful expression. He took his own death very seriously. What a pity, Funfu, you are going to die. In the body, one-tail Shikaku made a voice with regretful tone. I thought I could spend more time with you, Kai. I didn't expect that Konoha would produce this monster Nara Shintaku, who developed so many techniques and directly swept the ninja world. Otherwise, you can also be in Tsunagake live to the end of his life. In the sealed space, Shikaku's expression was full of pity. He still had a good impression of Monk Banfuku. Ha, fate is so mysterious. Monk Banfuku smiled faintly and communicated with Shikaku in his heart. I never thought that the peace situation created by the first Hokage himself would be broken by his descendants. Humph, first Hokage. Shikaku snorted coldly, and had no good feelings for the man who captured it. What else did he want to say? The inspection was over. Nara Shintaku stepped forward and put one hand on Monk Banfuku's head. Start separating the tailed beasts and sealing the host. The monk Fanfuku did not resist. He sighed and closed his eyes. Goodbye, Shikaku. Goodbye, Fanfuku. Shikaku said in the sealed space. One tailed beast, Fanfuku is dead. The seal of Jinchuriki connects the life of the tailed beast and the human, so that humans can use the power of the tailed beast. But if the tailed beast is extracted, the life connection is broken. Then Jinchuriki will die in a short time due to the loss of life. This is the iron law of the ninja world. But in Nara Shintaku's eyes, it is just a layer of paper that has not been pierced. Life connected? Hee, it's just that the life circuit is destroyed. But the human life circuit is complete in itself, but because of the sealing technique, a new section is connected. Just like connecting an extra artery, rashly extracting the tailed beast is like tearing the artery, which will cause people to bleed to death. If you want to survive, just cut off the extra artery and restore the original life circuit. Nara Shintaku mobilizes natural energy. Life shell creation technique. Instantly, natural energy poured into Fanfuku's body, directly cutting off the extra circuit of the Jinchuriki seal, at the moment when life was about to pass away. Natural energy transforms the circuit structure and rewires it. Restore the original human circuit structure. Fanfuku only felt his body lighten, and the connection between him and Shikaku was cut off. But the expected loss of life did not happen. He looked at Nara Shintaku in surprise and asked, "What did you do?" Nara Shintaku did not answer. With a grab in the air, a group of violent-tailed beast chakra was grabbed out of Fanfuku's abdomen. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. In the air, lines of ink marks appeared out of thin air. These lines formed a network, wrapped around this group of tailed beast chakra, forming layers of high-density seals. Suddenly, the violent aura disappeared. This group of tailed beasts chakra turned into a cup-sized pocket version of Shikaku. Ha! Shikaku sat on the ground with a blank expression. What's going on? It looked left at the still-alive Bunfuku, and then at the tall Nara Shintaku. The CPU was caught in the barbecue. Benfuku, why are you not dead? And Nara Shintaku, how come you have become so big? No, it seems that I have become smaller. Shikaku was puzzled. Yeah, why am I not dead? Monk Banfuku was also confused. Nara Shintaku ignored the two of them. He turned and walked to the instrument, looking at the test results of the separation just now, his expression thoughtful. And the separated Shikaku and Banfuku. One-tailed beast did not dare to move rashly, and whispered to communicate. Benfuku, I seem to have come out of your body? Yes, Nara Shintaku's hand just grabbed you out of my stomach. Then why didn't you die? I don't know, theoretically, Jinchuriki should die without the tailed beast, but I don't feel the loss of vitality. The more the two guys communicated, the more surprised they were. This Nara Shintaku not only easily lifted the seal of Jinchuriki, but also let Banfuku survive. This broke the iron law of the ninja world. One-tailed beast felt incredible. How is this possible? But this guy really did it, and I am alive now is the best proof. Hiss, this is something that even that guy can't do anything about. 6 what? Nothing. The two guys looked at Nara with surprise. But Nara's expression did not change at all. The idea of one-tailed beast had no effect on him. Will there be such changes in the separation process? Nara looked at the data and pondered. He waved his hand. A student came forward and took the pocket version of Shikaku and Fuku back to Funshin. In the cell, the Jinchuriki were depressed because of the death of Fuku monk. But the next moment, a sound of footsteps came. They looked up in shock and saw Fuku monk coming, and their eyes shrank immediately. Fuku Sr.? Are you okay? Didn't Nara do anything to you? Great, you're still alive. Fuku monk smiled bitterly when he heard this. But Shikaku jumped on his shoulder and said carelessly, I don't know what means Nara used to separate me and let Fuku still be alive. What? The Jinchuriki were shocked. Are you one-tail Shikaku? You actually came out. Can Nara Shintaku separate the Jinchuriki and the tailed beast without any injury? Wait, how did you become so small? Hearing the question about the size, Shikaku had a gloomy expression on his face and said angrily, it was also Nara Shintaku's trick. That guy set up a seal for me, limiting my strength and size by more than 90%. What a bastard. I have always been the only one who looked down on others, and no one else has looked down on me. Saying this, Shikaku jumped onto Bunfuku's head unwillingly. Even though his body became smaller, he had to maintain a high position that looked down on everyone. Hiss. The Jinchuriki gasped, and their expressions were incredible. After a Jinchuriki separates a tailed beast, his life will be lost and he will die. This is the iron rule of the ninja world. But this iron rule was broken by Nara Shintaku. For a moment, everyone's mood became a little depressed. Can the tailed beast be separated without dying? It's actually good for me. If the tailed beast is taken away, can I get rid of the identity of Jinchuriki? Maybe I can become an ordinary person again? Episode 89. Refining the will and entering the immortal god realm. It's not just Jinchuriki. The tailed beasts in Jinchuriki's body couldn't help but be moved. Shikaku is out. He's not locked up, he's still jumping around. Is it just more than 90% of his power that's sealed? Shikaku was separated, and although his power is sealed, he can move freely. For the tailed beasts, they have been imprisoned for many years. If they can get out, even if they become a pocket-sized body like Shikaku, it's completely acceptable. For a while. Whether it's Jinchuriki or the tailed beasts, the resistance of both sides has been greatly reduced. A few days later, Jinchuriki have shown a high degree of cooperation. Ha ha. Nara Shintaku knows what they're thinking, so he doesn't care. Because of the risk of losing control, Jinchuriki has been rejected and hated by their peers since the moment they were born. So, no one likes Jinchuriki's identity. If there is a chance to get rid of them, they can't wait. 3 tails are independent, and the other 1 tail to 8 tails have been extracted from Jinchuriki and sealed into pocket versions. Nara Shintaku was in the laboratory, looking at the data report of the instrument. It recorded the fluctuations and properties of the tailed beast chakra in detail. He found something very strange. Theoretically, Jinchuriki is impossible to be born. Because the weak human body cannot bear the high-energy tailed beast chakra, just like you can't put the sun in a bottle. Forcibly loading it will only destroy the bottle. But it is done in reality. It's really interesting. The power of the tailed beast will naturally converge spontaneously and not hurt humans. And this convergence is for all humans. It's equivalent to the sun in the bottle, which will extinguish itself to avoid burning the bottle. Nara Shintaku smiled with interest. This is really interesting. At the same time, outside Konoha village, in an underground space minister in the country of Tianwan, Uchiha Madara heard the information from Black Setsu and laughed in surprise. Konoha is attacking the 4 hidden villages and collecting tailed beasts? Ha ha ha, how interesting. Hashirama, the ideas and system you left behind were broken by your own juniors. Uchiha Madara couldn't help laughing. This was the best irony to his old friend. It was also an endorsement of his ideas. I can't believe that after so many years, there are people in Konoha who agree with my ideas. Uchiha Madara looked extremely happy and said to himself, and they collected the 9-tailed beasts. That's great, it can save me a lot of effort. There's no need for any agents, Konoha now has all the 9-tailed beasts. Uchiha Madara clenched his fist excitedly. He originally considered that he was too old to collect the 9-tailed beasts and perform infinite Tsukuyomi. So he considered looking for an agent. But now, Konoha's juniors have helped him complete this task. He doesn't need a so-called agent. Although I am old, with the power of these eyes, it is more than enough to suppress it once. Ha ha ha. God help me. Uchiha Madara stroked his eye sockets, his pair of Rinnegan were purple, and his expression was ecstatic. Next to him, Black Zetsu was also happy. Thanks to Konoha's juniors, they actually collected the nine-tailed beasts. Madara can perform infinite Tsukuyomi earlier. My mother can also be resurrected earlier and return to the earth. Well, since you helped me collect the tailed beasts, I will make a beautiful dream for that junior when I perform infinite Tsukuyomi. Uchiha Madara nodded slightly and imagined that he had already regarded the nine-tailed beasts as his own possession. He arrogantly gave a beautiful dream to Nara Shintaku, whom he had never met, as a reward. If Nara Shintaku and Orochimaru heard this, they would probably laugh out loud. But in Uchiha Madara's opinion, everything was reasonable. He had the unique Rinnegan in the entire ninja world, which was the power of the Sage of Six Paths 1,000 years ago. He is now more powerful than his younger self. Who can stop him? Let's go, Black Zetsu. Uchiha Madara was also a little impatient, and directly pulled out the pipe of the Gedo statue and left the underground space. Yes. Black Zetsu made a low and hoarse voice and followed excitedly. It couldn't wait to rescue Otsutsuki Kagaya. Technical Development Department. In the laboratory, 8 miniature-tailed beasts stood in the 8 ceiling arrays, sluggishly. Consciousness was suppressed. At the same time, there was a 9th ceiling array next to it, which was still empty and was reserved for Kurama. Finally done. Orochimaru's figure appeared, and the thing in his hand was healed. A red shadow flashed by. On the empty 9th array, a fox with 9 tails fell. Ha! Kurama fell to the ground, arched his body, and exhaled with a grin. Just about to say something. A burst of white light lit up on the array, and various tadpole characters appeared in the surrounding air, forming a complicated ritual. Kurama's eyes suddenly became sluggish. Like the 8-tailed beasts next to him, his consciousness was suppressed. So long? Nara Shintaku asked on the side. It took some time to convince Minato and Kushina. Orochimaru said casually, it's just a small problem. Separating 9 tails is a good thing for Kushina, and she accepted it quickly. Is that so? Nara nodded. The small talk stopped here. Yes, for the two of them now, studying the tailed beasts is the most important thing. Kushina? If it weren't for the identity of 9 tails Jinchuriki, the two would never think of this person. Let's get started. Nara stretched and walked towards Shikaku. Yes. Orochimaru also stepped forward with an excited smile on his face. The two cooperated to slice Shikaku for research. Literally slice. Anyway, the tailed beasts will not die, so they can do experiments boldly. Moreover, the secret of the immortality of the tailed beasts is also one of their research goals. If there is no clue in the end, they will try to kill the tailed beast once and observe the process of its resurrection. Hiss, are the tailed beasts really alive? They are just a ball of energy with their own thoughts. It is not the Sage of Six Paths that created their lives, but as the 10 tails chakra, its high-intensity activity, the direct master gave birth to the will of thought. Orochimaru said excitedly. On the research table, a bug-sized Shikaku, with fear in his eyes, curled up his body. This is part of the chakra separated from Shikaku. It is obviously only part of the chakra. After being cultivated by Nara Shintaku and Orochimaru, it became a new Shikaku with simple IQ and thinking. Interesting. Nara Shintaku commented on the side. By comparing the 9-tailed beasts, we can find that their essence is the same, from 1 tail to 9 tails, song is just a difference in form. Orochimaru said. Nara Shintaku nodded in agreement. In front of the two, dozens of small-tailed beasts wearing blood-red coats and violently roaring. Different tailed beasts' chakras, after being corroded and infected, actually create the same violent monsters. The so-called form is actually a kind of constraint, a template that fixes the chakra. Nara Shintaku commented, this is a very clever method. Sage of Six Paths writes the template into the bottom layer of chakra. This makes this group of chakra, no matter how many times it is defeated, it will recondense in the same format. This is the secret of the immortality of the tailed beasts. Sure enough, destroying their forms is no different from killing them once. Orochimaru looked at the 9 groups of chakra in the magic circle, his pupils shrank slightly, and he felt a palpitation. After losing the form created by yin-yang escape, the essence of the tailed beasts was revealed. It was 9 groups of turbid color chakra, violent and chaotic, full of malice, like bacteria, to devour all living things in the world. This is 10 tails chakra. But because the Sage of 6 Paths was written into the bottom layer of chakra, the 9 groups of chakra did not expand instinctively, nor did they devour the surrounding living things and natural energy emperors. Instead, they lay dormant there, neither increasing nor decreasing, neither more nor less. As if immortal. This is the original appearance of the tailed beasts. Nara Shintaku stared at the 9 chakras with a deep look. But how to use it? Orochimaru frowned and said, "We are living humans, not energy creatures." No. Nara Shintaku disagreed, and a flash of inspiration came to his mind. Since the use of magic can create the form of the tailed beast, then think about it the other way around. Why can't the human form be regarded as a magic? Orochimaru was stunned, with a look of surprise on his face. What do you mean? He couldn't help but ask. In essence, all living things in the world are the result of changes in natural energy and are children of nature. Nara Shintaku looked dim and said slowly, "So, we can regard humans as a natural energy. The process of growth and development, no, the process of growing up from the embryo is the process of a fairy magic constantly shaping us. The human body is also a fixed template for the magic formula. Our essence is actually a natural energy flowing into a fixed template." Boom! Orochimaru seemed to have thunder exploding in his mind. He felt his scalp tingling. This kind of discussion on the essence of life touches the forbidden zone of the self, which makes people shudder and nervous. According to Nara Shintaku's statement, the so-called human beings are just a template of immortal arts. Thinking, will, emotions, gender, etc. are also just a template. They can be tampered with and transformed at will. Interesting, you deny the particularity of living things and the absoluteness of self-will. You think that the so-called thinking and consciousness are just a product of energy, something that is born by chance, and there is nothing special. Orochimaru licked his lips and showed a shocked look. This judgment coincides with his inner thoughts. Only in this way can we take the next step. Nara Shintaku said calmly. The Earth in the previous life had already reached a general consensus. Life is an accident, and human beings are also an accident. There is no specialness. This denial of specialness broke the shackles in people's hearts, allowing people to study the brain, heart, and intestinal flora without scruples, and conduct human experiments and genetic engineering unscrupulously. Only by breaking the awe is it the basis for progress. So, what should we do? Orochimaru licked his lips and asked excitedly. Conduct reverse engineering. Nara Shintaku affirmed. Reverse engineering? That's right, regard human growth and development as a fairy art. What we have to do is to crack this fairy art and return our original appearance. After that, the two temporarily let the 9-tailed beasts go, and Tanaka studied human materials on a large scale. A few days later, in the laboratory, the 9-tailed beasts lazily occupied a territory each, killing time. What do you think those two humans are studying? Shikako squatted, his expression confused, seal Laozi's consciousness, and go through the past 3 days in a daze. When he woke up, his body was still broken. Why do you care so much? The two-tailed beast turned over and closed his eyes. Yes, we are the Sage of 6 Paths. Humans can't research anything. 7 tails also said. The other tailed beasts didn't speak. But they had the same idea. They are the Sage of 6 Paths, life created by advanced yin-yang escape. The body is the chakra of the sacred tree. These 2 points alone are enough to make humans rack their brains and can't figure out what's going on. In this era, even the Shinobi clan was destroyed. But no one knows the source of chakra, let alone the existence of the sacred tree. Those humans only study us as weapons. 9-tail sneered and said in a deep voice, a group of creatures who can only kill each other. This made the other tailed beasts nod in agreement. Throughout the history of thousands of years, humans have always coveted their power and used them as weapons. They never considered anything else. They thought that Nara Shintaku and Orochimaru were the same. However, they didn't know that at this time in another laboratory, Nara Shintaku and Orochimaru were sitting cross-legged facing each other. Boom! The bodies of the two instantly collapsed and returned to their original state. It was like time was reversed, from a tangible and material body to an intangible and intangible innate essence. In an instant, the two people who were originally sitting cross-legged turned into 2 balls of light. One ball was filled with a cold breath, wandering faintly, as if it was about to turn into a snake. The other ball was filled with a mysterious color, as if it was all-encompassing. At the same time, next to the 2 lights, there was a scalpel and a crown, flying to guard them. What a wonderful feeling! The cold ball of light trembled gently and sent out information. This way of transmitting information is very wonderful. It is not light or sound, but a kind of wave. Any sentient creature, as long as it is exposed to the wave, can instantly understand the meaning. In other words, this way of communication transcends species, culture, language, and civil officials. Without the five senses, I can still clearly see the world around me. And see more clearly. The deep secrets of everything, even the fluctuations of time and space, the ripples of fate, seem to be able to see. The cold light ball transmits information. On the opposite side, the light that Nara Shintaku turned into also trembled and responded. The five senses are just low-level perception methods. Now, it is truly extraordinary. We should touch the door. Stop talking nonsense, start. Okay. Orochimaru waved and agreed. Boom. Two light balls suddenly burst out with large pieces of light. These light threads are like ropes, shuttling inside the light ball, as if threading a needle, connecting something. Weave. Weave. Weave your own will and thinking structure into the original Energy King in reverse. No brain, no body. The essence of life is a natural energy. Melting the acquired self with the innate energy. Breaking the boundaries. Sublimating immortality. Boom. In Nara's consciousness, it seemed as if a big explosion had occurred. The light was overflowing, and endless creation appeared. His will seemed to have crossed an invisible boundary, sublimated, and came to a vague height. On this ethereal height, he gained a special bird's-eye view. Everything in the world, the flow of all energy, the changes of things, and even the fluctuations of time and space, the flow of fate, etc., can be seen clearly as if looking at the lines on the palm. This is the real world. Is this the world in the eyes of God? Nara's consciousness fluctuated slightly, and he murmured to himself, finally reached the state where I am energy, that is me. Melting will into energy, breaking the boundaries of tangible and material, and achieving sublimation. This is Sage, the end of the transformation road. It is the real of immortal gods. Swish. In the laboratory, a light suddenly flashed. Episode 90, Invulnerable to all invasion. A ball of light suddenly flew into the air, turned into light gas, and then fell to the ground with a slight turn, turning into a human figure. It was Nara Shintaku. The other cold ball of light only became brighter and swelled, but did not transform into its original figure. The cold ball of light sighed with regret. Then it gathered natural energy and created a human template. The cold ball of light merged into the template like a soul. The template opened its eyes, and it was Orochimaru. I didn't accumulate enough, so I couldn't take that step. Orochimaru said regretfully, it will probably take more than 100 years to melt the will and energy together and become an immortal god. 100 years is very fast. Nara Shintaku smiled and comforted. That's true. Orochimaru thought about it and nodded. In today's era, the path for immortals to become gods has long been cut off. The immortals of the three holy places have been lingering for thousands of years, but they have not been able to take this step, and they have not even touched the edge of the realm of gods. It only takes him 100 years to become a god, which is an incredible speed. This is all thanks to Nara's help. Being a master and apprentice with you is the greatest luck in my life. Orochimaru turned his head and said to Nara sincerely. You're welcome. You can get to this point because of your own efforts. Nara waved his hand indifferently. Orochimaru said nothing more, but just remembered the favor in his heart. He is not a cold-blooded guy. The appearance of Nara also changed the plot of the original work, so that he has not become a cold and cruel Orochimaru. So now Orochimaru has normal moral qualities and values. Naturally, he will remember Nara's help. I'm leaving first, Orochimaru said, and left the laboratory. It will definitely take time for Nara to get familiar with the new realm. He left consciously. In the laboratory, Nara sat cross-legged in the air, experiencing the power of the new realm of 937. His will and energy merged, completely dominating himself, and he also had 100% control over his own situation. Therefore, as soon as he thought, a lot of enlightenment emerged. Invulnerable to all things. Remote sensing of heaven and earth. For things are infinite. Eternal divine power. A gleam of light flashed in Nara's eyes, and he was slightly surprised. He mastered 4 new powers. These are 4 very powerful powers, but for immortal gods, they are just the 4 basic powers that every god possesses. The first is, invulnerable to all things. Energy and will are melted into one. Energy is stable and unchanged because of will, and will is indestructible because of energy. Therefore, all forms of attack cannot hurt Nara. Unless it is an enemy of the same level, it will take countless time to gradually wear out Nara's will and the energy, and then it is possible to kill Nara. Or use a high-level seal containing time and space attributes, the Nara seal. Or, the world will be destroyed directly, falling into the void, and Nara will perish in the eternal void. The above three are the only effective means of attack. If there is no external force, then the gods are immortal until the end of the world. The end of the universe. The second is, remote sensing heaven and earth. After being energized, Nara broke the boundaries of form and became a giant in a macro sense. Just existing is a huge source of attraction. Just like the source of gravity, black holes, and the center of Uzumaki, all things that are close to Nara in attributes will be attracted by Nara and approach spontaneously. The changes of these things will also be clearly perceived by Nara. Today, Nara's attribute is all things, which is an abstract concept. In the biological world, it is imitation, learning, and growth. In the human level, it is scholars, researchers, and developers. From the perspective of the environment, it is adaptation, evolution, enrichment, and abundance. Therefore, Nara can be called the god of evolution, the land of learning, and the land of growth. Anything related to these concepts will attract Nara's attention. Attracted by Nara. If the attracted person or creature can walk through one of the paths, he will become the Holy Spirit of Nara and go to heaven from God, just like the God who fully understands the doctrines of Christianity and practices without doubt. The third point is, for immeasurables. The energy-based gods will look at time and everything from a very high angle, as if looking down from the sky. In the eyes of the gods, everything is the change and fluctuation of energy. There is no essential difference between energy and matter, only one is active and the other is quiet. Because it can be seen, the future direction of energy can be calculated. That is, omniscience. But the calculation amount of gods is different. Some gods can predict finely, while some gods can only roughly see through the direction of the times. But omniscience means omnipotence. Any god can interfere with the flow of energy at the most subtle level, thus creating a terrifying butterfly effect. For example, a stone is thrown at Konoha village thousands of miles away. Many days later, a thunderstorm formed above Cloud Shinobi village, destroying all buildings. Of course, this is the most ideal state. Nara Shintaku's eyes flashed, and he shook his head gently. In fact, there are many variables in the calculation, and the existence of other gods will also interfere with the butterfly effect. This trick can only be used to clean up the soldiers. It is ineffective against enemies of the same level. Finally, the fourth point is, God's power everlasting work. Energized gods will never have the problem of power exhaustion. They can grab the scattered energy around them at will and refine it into power that conforms to their own attributes and concepts. These powers that conform to the attributes and concepts of gods are the exclusive 5 gods of gods. Unless the universe ends and everything is annihilated. Otherwise, gods will never lose power. Pervert is so powerful. This is just the basic power that is universally shared by the realm of gods. Nara Shintaku couldn't help but sigh. Has he become so strong without knowing it? There are no enemies in the entire ninja world. No, wait. Nara Shintaku suddenly raised his head and looked in the direction of the moon, muttering to himself, there are still some 10 tails, Tsuchikage. This planet had gods thousands of years ago. But those gods were all devoured by the sacred tree. Their power and authority were completely taken away and turned into the eye techniques of Mangekyo and Rinnegan. This shows that the power of the sacred tree is above that of the gods. Nara Shintaku was not surprised by this. Although the gods are immortal, they are only immortal without external forces. At the same time, gods are not the end of the road. Going further up, there are still ways to cross the universe and transcend dimensions. The strongest of the Otsutsuki clan, Shirbai, who is known as the god of Otsutsuki, successfully transcended the dimension and left this universe. As for Tsuchikage, who was so strong, he was actually sealed by his 2 sons. Nara Shintaku smiled contemptuously. The realm is the realm, and the combat power is the combat power. A god who does not know how to fight, like the tailed beasts, will only be sealed by beings weaker than themselves and lose their freedom. He will not be like this. Nara Shintaku's strength completely matches the realm of the gods. At the same time, outside, an old and aging man slowly stepped on the land of Konoha. He is obviously old, but he still has a fierce and mighty aura, like a lion, and people dare not offend. At the same time, the Rinnegan in the man's eyes is even more powerful, exuding a heavy breath like a mountain. I really miss Konoha. The man is Orochimaru. He looks at Konoha village with nostalgia, his eyes are dazed. Once upon a time, this was the place where he and Hashirama devoted their efforts. It's a pity that everything is over. Hashirama, you are wrong, even your descendants betrayed you. Orochimaru muttered, passing through the Great Barrier and stepping into the village. At this moment, in the barrier class, various detection instruments and magic arrays lit up dazzling light at the same time. The instrument warned even more frantically, and the pointer on the instrument spun wildly as if it had lost control. Oh no, it turns out that a huge amount of chakra entered the village. A huge amount of chakra? Impossible. Yes, the nine-tailed beasts have been detained by the technical department. How can there be a huge amount of chakra? But the instrument will not be wrong. You're right. Report to the 4th generation master. Notify the Anbu. Send out the combatants. Instantly, the barrier squad entered the highest level of alert. They cooperated with the Anbu team stationed there and quickly went to check the location of the huge chakra. On a certain street, Orochimaru was taking a walk nostalgically when his eyes suddenly moved. Whoosh! 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 The figures of Anbu ninjas and Konoha shinobi came from a distance and quickly surrounded him. Who are you? The leading Konoha shinobi asked sternly, why are you good at breaking into the king without saying hello? He. Orochimaru chuckled and took off his hood to reveal his face. Seeing his face, all the Anbu ninjas and Konoha shinobi were horrified. Orochimaru. Impossible. You're already dead. Killed by Shodai in the Valley of the End. Wait, those eyes. Are you kidding? Rinnegan? That's not a legend, how could it exist? Everyone was shocked. All of them were shocked. They could never have imagined that Orochimaru, who was supposed to be dead, actually came back with a pair of legendary Rinnegan. Can the newly set barrier sense my chakra? Orochimaru put his hands behind his back, looked around, as if he had returned home, and gave a faint evaluation. Not bad. The person who improved this barrier has a lot of ideas. While talking, more ninjas came and surrounded the area. These ninjas were all shocked when they saw Orochimaru for the first time. Orochimaru? Rinnegan? They opened their eyes wide in astonishment, wondering if they were hallucinating. But the Byakugan and Sharingan among the ninjas did not find any flaws after observing Orochimaru several times. They had to admit that this Orochimaru was a jerk. Quick! Bring the information to the 4th generation. Others, follow me. After giving the instructions, a leading ninja waved his arm and called on other ninjas to attack together. Ninja tools. Detonating talismans. 5 elements escape techniques. In an instant, dozens of attacks came from all directions, like a rain curtain, falling on the head of Orochimaru in the middle. Ha! Orochimaru sneered, his eyes the power of the Rinnegan exploded. Let me show you the power of these eyes. Shinra Tensei. Boom! A powerful repulsive force was released with him as the center. All the ninja tools and ninjutsu flew away and returned to the attacker at a faster speed. Not good. Many ninjas changed their faces. But it was too late. The repulsive force continued to be powerful, like an iron curtain, hitting the surrounding ninjas hard. Bang bang bang. Countless ninjas were blown away like cannonballs, crashing through several walls before stopping. In the original place. It was like a typhoon passing through, withered and rotten. Hundreds of meters around Orochimaru, all the buildings disappeared and were razed to the ground. How is this kind of power possible? Just one move, to defeat us? So strong, is this the Rinnegan? We are no match at all. He is 80 years old this year, and he still has such a strong power. All the ninjas were shocked. Ha! He is not dead? Orochimaru was surprised, glanced around, and exclaimed, your quality is much better than the ninjas of my time. According to his estimation, this Shinra Tensei was enough to crush a person. But the ninjas around were only seriously injured. Their physical fitness exceeded his expectations. However, in front of this pair of Rinnegan, this god's power, we are just mortals after all. Orochimaru sneered, walked past many wounded soldiers, and headed for the technical development department. Although he was not dead, he also lost his combat effectiveness. Even if the injury was too serious, he would have to lie in bed for the rest of his life. Orochimaru disdained to finish off the enemy. His target was the nine-tailed beasts. At the same time, in the Hokage building, countless elite jonin appeared, looking solemnly at their fourth Hokage, Orochimaru. Fourth generation, it has been confirmed. A ninja reported with a complicated expression. The person who came is indeed Uchiha Madara. We dug up Uchiha Madara's grave and coffin, and it was empty. Fourth generation, what should we do now? Everyone looked at Orochimaru, including Tsunade, Jiraiya, Namake's Minato, and the retired third Hokage. They all had serious expressions and heavy eyes. The name Uchiha Madara alone is enough to put pressure on people. Not to mention, there is the legendary Rinnegan. There is already a squadron of ninjas who tried to intercept, but were defeated by Uchiha Madara in one move, and all of them fell to the ground with serious injuries. This is a new ninja who has mastered new techniques and received potions. Judging by the old standards, 5.6 can be called full-time jonin. But in front of Uchiha Madara, they are vulnerable. Let me lead the team, Orochimaru. Tsunade spoke first, with a firm look in her eyes. Let me, your granddaughter, solve the opponents that Grandpa has not killed. Don't be impulsive, Tsunade. Yes, you alone are no match for Uchiha Madara. Even if you have to go, it will be me, a retired old man, who will rush to the first place. People around persuaded. Uchiha Madara is a strong man who can compete with the first generation. How can he be his opponent? What should we do? Tsunade frowned and said dissatisfiedly, we have been beaten to our homes. Someone has to fight. Everyone was silent. They also wanted to fight, but no one was an opponent. You are responsible for evacuating the crowd, and don't worry about the battle. Orochimaru, who had been silent all the time, spoke at this time. Everyone's eyes flashed with surprise. They knew a little about Orochimaru's strength. The magic circle of the Tiansong technique suppressed the 8 tails Jinchuriki in the air, which was the best proof. Fourth generation, are you sure? Someone asked. I'm a bit sure. Orochimaru stood in front of the French window, looking out, and said lightly, the power of Rinnegan is very strong, even above wood style. Even if the first Hokage is resurrected, I'm afraid he won't be his opponent. Everyone couldn't help but feel nervous when they heard this. Rinnegan, is it stronger than wood style? But he is too old, his body is decayed, and his vitality is insufficient. Orochimaru continued, with my achievements in the natural energy path, I can still kill him at a partial cost. But if I take action, the battle will destroy Konoha. So, let's ask someone who is more sure to go.